The first is fear, the scent of prey. Once others know you are afraid, they will test you, doubt you, and eventually break you. Fear must exist within, not upon your face. You may feel it, you are human. But show it never. Let your hands shake in solitude, not in the presence of your rivals. Because the moment they see your uncertainty, they will sharpen their ambition and dull their mercy. In times of chaos, those who walk with a steady voice, even if trembling inside, are the ones others follow. Second is desperation, that cruel hunger that makes a man beg, plead, or panic. Desperation is the death of negotiation. It tells the world, I have nothing and I'll do anything. And the world replies, then you're worth nothing. Even in your lowest moments, carry the illusion of control. Not to lie to others, but to buy yourself time, to think, to move, to rebuild. Dignity is not a privilege of the powerful, it is the armor of the fallen who rise again. You are allowed to fall, but fall like a king, not a beggar. Hatred, the most seductive poison. When you reveal your hatred, you reveal your target. You give your enemies the gift of clarity. You tell them exactly what you will destroy and what they must protect. But when you keep your hatred veiled, you become unpredictable, dangerous, strategic. Do not become a slave to your rage. Become the architect of its consequences. Burn, yes, but burn with purpose, not noise. The wise do not kill emotion, they master it, because a man who feels nothing is not powerful. He is hollow, but a man who feels everything and controls what he shows, that man is a storm dressed in calm. So be like the ocean, deep, fierce, and unshaken on the surface. Let the world wonder what you feel. Never hand them the map to your heart. Reveal only what strengthens you. Conceal what weakens you. That is not deception. It is survival. Emotion is the most ancient signal of the human spirit. It moves armies, divides kingdoms, forges loyalties, and ruins empires. But in the realm of strategy, influence, and survival, emotion is not just felt. It is read, interpreted, and weaponized. In a world where perception often matters more than truth, to display your emotions openly is to hand over your weapons to those who would use them against you. People are not as neutral as they seem. Even in peaceful times, life is a quiet battlefield of dominance, ego, envy, and ambition. In every room, some are watching not with compassion, but with calculation. The more you show, the easier you are to read. And once they can read you, they can predict you. And if they can predict you, they can control you. Take fear, for instance. If you show it, others know exactly where you are vulnerable. They begin to test the edges. They find what scares you, what corners you, what pressures you crumble under. Even those who claim to be on your side may begin to see you differently, not out of cruelty, but out of instinct. People trust strength. They follow composure, and when fear becomes your visible identity, confidence in you fades, even if you still have ability, but this extends beyond fear. Show deep sadness in the wrong place, and you'll be seen as unstable. Show too much joy too soon, and you'll be seen as naive. Reveal that something angers you, and you give others the keys to provoke you. It's not that you should never feel. Only the most foolish and soulless attempt that. But to feel and not control how and when it is revealed, that is a dangerous path. Those who succeed over time are those who can sit with a storm inside and still speak with the calm of a man under blue skies. Emotion, when revealed carelessly, also invites manipulation. The world is full of people who are charming not because they are kind, but because they are observant. They watch how your voice cracks, when your eyes dart, when your posture shifts. If they detect fear, they will press. If they see you angry, they will bait you further, and all the while they smile, not because they enjoy your pain, but because your reaction gives them control. You become predictable. You become playable, and you no longer belong to yourself. It's not only others who misuse your emotions. Sometimes it is you. When you express too much, you begin to believe the performance. You cry too long, and sorrow becomes identity. You rage too often, and you mistake it for power. But true power comes in restraint. It comes in the pause before the explosion. It comes in the moments where you could break, but you don't. That is where respect is born. Not in the loud, but in the still. The wise understand the role of masks, not to deceive others maliciously, but to protect what must remain unseen. A warrior does not enter battle without armor. Why should you enter the world without guarding the very thing that drives your every move? Emotion is not weakness, but unguarded emotion is. The more valuable the treasure, the more tightly it must be secured. And yet, this is not a call for emotional coldness. There is no greatness without emotion. There is no loyalty, no ambition, no love, no courage without it. The difference lies in control. When you control your emotions, you use them as instruments, tools to motivate, to inspire, to endure. When your emotions control you, they become chains that others hold. People will test you, not because they hate you, but because they are drawn to see what you're made of. Some will challenge you, some will compete with you, others will envy you. All of them are watching for clues, looking for breaks in your composure, gaps in your armor. They won't say it, they might even call it empathy. But deep inside, every human being understands power when they see it, and they detect power does not scream. It does not beg, it does not explain itself in panic. Power is calm, even when the soul beneath it is on fire. In moments of desperation, the natural urge is to shout, to plead, to make the world understand your suffering or need. But power does not ask the world for sympathy. It commands the world through presence, through silence, through an unshakable stillness that suggests endurance beyond the breaking point. When you are desperate and you make that desperation visible, you place yourself at the mercy of others. You show them your hunger, and in that moment you give them the ability to feed or starve you, not based on justice or fairness, but based on their whim. And nothing is more dangerous than placing your survival in the hands of those who may not care. Desperation is not just emotional exposure, it is strategic collapse. It tells people, I have no more leverage. It tells them, you have power over me now. When you cry out in despair, when you speak too soon in frustration, when you offer too much too quickly just to be heard or helped, you show that you are losing control of yourself. And when people see that you cannot govern your own state of being, they begin to doubt your ability to govern anything else. The man who is silent while crumbling is feared. The man who weeps before he must is pitied. And pity rarely invites loyalty, rarely invites respect, and never invites strength. There will be moments in life when you feel backed into a corner, financially, emotionally, socially. You will feel like screaming, like exposing your brokenness to the world in hope that someone will fix it. But here is the brutal truth. The world does not reward the loudness of suffering. It rewards the endurance of it. When others see you under pressure, when they expect you to break and you do not, when they push you and you do not move, when they test your silence and it remains, then and only then do they begin to believe you are someone to be reckoned with. Restraint is not weakness. It is the highest form of discipline, and discipline is the architecture of all true power. A desperate man will accept any terms. A desperate man will make any promise. A desperate man will hand over his future just to ease the pain of the present. That is why those in power fear desperation, not when they see it in others, but when it begins to creep into themselves. They know that once they start acting from despair, they start making decisions that cost them everything. This is why restraint is more than a tactic, it is survival. It is the art of holding your ground long enough to turn the tide. Sometimes silence buys you time, and time, in the hands of the patient, becomes a weapon deadlier than any sword. People often mistake loudness for strength. They confuse urgency with importance, but in moments of crisis, look closely. The loudest voice in the room is often the one who has already lost. The calm one, the one who observes, who chooses his words with care, who speaks when it matters and remains quiet when it doesn't. That is the one who holds true control. That is the one who has not traded power for panic. You may be screaming inside, you may be drowning in problems, but let your face remain composed, let your voice be steady, let your silence make others wonder what you're planning, even if you are simply surviving the hour. To let your silence speak louder than your despair is not to pretend that life is easy. It is to honor the fact that your struggle deserves dignity. Desperation strips that dignity if it is performed. But if you carry it quietly, if you endure it without surrendering to the need for external validation, you walk through fire without becoming ash. You become something else. You become someone who has known suffering but has not let it own them. Someone who has felt the edge of collapse but did not beg. Someone who has mastered not just action but inaction, not just strength but silence. There is immense power in the pause. Before you react, before you reply, before you let the world see what you truly feel. In that pause is where you decide whether to hand over your strength or hold it just a moment longer. And often, that single moment, that breath between emotion and expression, is where kings are made, where warriors are born, and where the defeated rise again, not loudly, but unshakably. Restraint does not mean absence of feeling. It means the presence of control. And those who control themselves when everything else is out of control are the ones others follow. Not out of sympathy, but out of awe. Those who control their reactions shape the battlefield before the battle begins. Before a word is spoken, before a sword is drawn, before any visible conflict takes form, the true contest has already begun, within. In this silent arena where emotion tempts action and pride demands expression, only those with control over their reactions can dictate the rules of engagement. The world, for all its order and structure, is built on unpredictable human behavior. People provoke, manipulate, mislead, and test, not always with intent to harm, but often to measure. They want to know what moves you, what shakes you, what ignites you. Your reaction becomes the answer. And if you are quick to reveal it, anger, irritation, hurt, or need, they now possess a blueprint of how to move you again and again. Every moment you react without thinking, you forfeit initiative. You surrender the upper ground to someone else's rhythm. Whether it is an insult, a challenge, a setback, or a betrayal, your first response is either a declaration of strength or a confession of instability. Those who lash out immediately after being provoked become predictable. And predictable people can be outmaneuvered, manipulated, and dismissed. But those who pause, who do not give their opponent the satisfaction of a visible crack, who take the insult and offer only silence or a measured gaze, those are the ones who remain unreadable. And the unreadable hold the advantage because the enemy never knows what they will do next. In any negotiation, debate, argument, or confrontation, the one who controls the emotional pace controls the outcome. If someone angers you and you snap, you play into their plan. If someone pressures you and you fold, they've won before they've even made their final demand. But if you remain still, composed, impenetrable, even when storms rage around you, you force the other side to wonder. You create uncertainty in them, and uncertainty is a powerful ally. People fear what they cannot predict, and fear breeds caution, hesitation, and mistakes. Every time you respond on your terms instead of theirs, you reclaim control over the scene, the tone, and the tempo of the entire encounter. The battlefield, in its truest form, is not always blood and soil. It is conversation, decision, making, leadership, crisis, betrayal, and ambition. Every day, people face battles in boardrooms, in families, in communities, and within themselves. And in each of those arenas, the first clash is internal, between the urge to react and the discipline to restrain. To control your reaction is to hold the keys to the gate. You decide when the battle begins, how it unfolds, and whether it even happens at all. Many wars, literal and metaphorical, have been won not because the stronger force struck first, but because the wiser force waited, observed, prepared. They shaped the terrain with silence, dictated the timing with patience, and struck only when it was most effective. That is the art of shaping the battlefield. Reaction is what people expect. Control is what they fear. If you want to lead to survive, to win in complex and hostile environments, you must master the discipline of delayed response. You do not need to answer every insult. You do not need to match every raised voice. You do not need to justify yourself in the face of provocation. The moment you learn that silence is often more intimidating than shouting, that a still face is more unsettling than a storm of words, you begin to operate on a different level of influence. You are no longer dragged into fight. You choose them. And when you choose them, you control them. There is a kind of quiet authority that radiates from those who do not react impulsively. Their strength is not in loud commands or dramatic gestures, but in the way they absorb tension without cracking. Others sense it and instinctively defer, uncertain where the boundaries lie, unwilling to trigger something they cannot read. This is why the greatest leaders, strategists, and thinkers were not the loudest. They were the most composed. The ones who waited, watched, and moved only when the field had tilted invisibly in their favor. It takes strength to fight, but it takes greater strength to wait, to feel the insult but show nothing, to feel the fear but speak calmly, to feel the urge to retaliate but instead to measure the moment and move only when the advantage is absolute. That is how battles are won before they begin. That is how kingdoms are built not with force but with focus. The one who can stand still while chaos presses in, who can see the game instead of just the move, who can wait while others waste their energy on noise. This is the one who decides not only their fate, but often the fate of all those around them. Vulnerability in emotion invites dominance. It is a truth older than kingdoms, whispered in the halls of power and in the quiet moments of human interaction alike. To expose your heart openly is to invite others to step inside, to probe your weaknesses, and to seize the opportunity to rise above you. The heart, unlike a fortress with stone walls, has no obvious defenses, only layers of trust, caution, and experience that can be torn down with words, actions, and time. Those who reveal too freely the depths of their feelings, the pains they carry, the doubts that haunt them, unintentionally lower their shields. This is not a condemnation of feeling deeply or living honestly. Rather, it is a recognition that in the harsh realities of human affairs, to reveal your emotional self is to risk becoming vulnerable to those who see vulnerability not as a plea for compassion, but as an invitation to control. Guard your heart as you would your crown. A crown is a symbol of authority and power, often heavy with jewels and steeped in tradition. But a crown is also fragile. If damaged or stolen, it loses its meaning. The same is true of your emotional core. It is the seat of your identity, your strength, and your resolve. When your heart is unguarded, it can be crushed or manipulated, and once broken, it is difficult to restore to its full glory. This is why those who succeed in any arena, whether in leadership, relationships, or life, treat their emotions like precious assets. They do not squander them in public displays or reckless confession. Instead, they measure carefully who is worthy of their trust, when it is safe to reveal the depths beneath their surface, and how much to expose without losing the very thing that makes them formidable. The world is filled with those who would seek to dominate not through brute force alone, but through psychological means. They watch for signs of softness, hesitation, sadness, anxiety, and use those openings to push harder, to question deeper, to unsettle. This is not always done with cruelty. Sometimes it is simply a matter of survival and strategy. Dominance is won by the one who holds the power of emotional control, not by the one who shows weakness. To reveal vulnerability without careful consideration is to hand your crown to another and invite them to wear it in your stead. This is why the greatest among us build invisible walls around their hearts, revealing only what serves their purpose and concealing the rest as a sacred trust to themselves. Yet, this guarding is not the absence of emotion or the refusal to feel. It is instead the wisdom of restraint. It is the ability to experience pain, joy, fear, and love deeply, but to decide when and where those emotions will be visible. The strongest leaders, the wisest strategists, the most resilient souls all know that vulnerability must be a choice, not a habit. It must be shared with those who have earned the right and never in haste or desperation. There is a power in that choice, the power to remain sovereign over your own inner kingdom and to protect it from the storms of others' intentions. Furthermore, the act of guarding one's heart is an act of self-respect. When you do not allow your emotions to be pulled from you like a trophy or weapon, you maintain your dignity. You send a clear message to the world that you are not to be taken lightly. This does not mean building walls so high that no one can reach you. Rather, it means constructing boundaries firm enough to keep you safe and flexible enough to allow true connection on your terms. Such boundaries are essential because when your emotional defenses crumble, not only do you become vulnerable to domination, but you risk losing yourself in the process. Those who guard their hearts wisely understand that power lies not in emotional exhibition, but in emotional sovereignty. They know that their worth is not defined by how much they reveal, but by how much they protect what is sacred within. When you value your heart as your crown, you will treat it with the reverence it deserves, and you will demand the same from others. You will not allow yourself to be a prize handed out to the first claimant, nor will you yield your strength to those who do not appreciate it. Instead, you stand firm, an unyielding monarch over your emotions, aware that vulnerability is a tool, not a weakness, a gift to be bestowed with intention, not a flaw to be exploited. In the end, guarding your heart is not a call to loneliness or detachment, but a call to wise stewardship of your emotional power. It is to live fully and feel deeply while retaining the ability to command your inner world. It is to acknowledge that while we are all vulnerable by nature, we are also capable of great resilience when we protect what matters most. The crown you wear is not merely an ornament, but the symbol of your right to rule your own destiny, and that includes the destiny of your own heart.